morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sohini,
And I'm Vivian, and this is the SSAB News Show.
Today, our news show centers around the 2011 crisis in Egypt and Libya. Tell us about Egypt, Vivian.
Well, Sohini, citizens started protesting peacefully on January 25th in 2011 in Cairo because the president would not pass certain amendments. The protests showing grievances against the president, Hosni Mubarak, flew through the city like a wildfire. Soon afterwards, protests turned violent as the police were sent to try and stop it. The United States removed all of its citizens that were over there to protect them. Obama urged the president to step down, showing his influence in public policy and wielding his power as chief diplomat. This is showing humanitarian policy. Since he refused and sent the military in, Mubarak quickly lost the friendship of the U.S. The military also turned against Mubarak, joining the rebellion instead of stopping it. Finally, after 18 days, Mubarak stepped down on February 11th. He had been in power for 30 years. Instead of becoming free, the military command quickly took over the country. They delayed both the parliamentary and the presidential elections, but claimed that they will return power to the parliament in September and power to the president after the election in November. Mubarak was placed in jail along with his sons. In April, new protests sprang up against the military, its slow pace of change, and what the demonstrators saw as loyalty to the old government. The military is violating our idea of democracy, freedom of expression, and many more American core beliefs. Egypt is changing its normal foreign policy by planning to stop a blockade against Gaza and becoming friendly with Hamas and Iran. Now we go to Shota, who is in Egypt. Shota?
Thanks, Vivian and Sohini. So, as Vivian said, Egypt has gone through a lot these past couple months. Because Mubarak resigned on February 11, 2011, the general people have a tendency to think that the mess in Egypt is resolved. But that's not the case. One hanging problem is that the police cannot maintain peace and order because they don't have a leader right now. So, right now, Egypt is not a safe place to be at. Because it is not safe, citizens are buying their own guns for protection, and as a result, the price of guns has risen to almost 4 times its original price. Also, the Egyptian people commonly spot people setting fire on buildings and throwing rocks at buildings and people. The Egyptian people and the world say that Egypt has worsened after the revolution. It is ironic that the revolution didn't resolve anything, but it was the expected result. As the New York Times said, revolution is easy, democracy is difficult. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to Vivian and Sohini.
Thanks, Shota. Now what about Libya, Sohini?
Well, in Libya, recently there has been a civil war. It started out as peaceful protests against the dictator, Muammar Gaddafi, but it turned into a full-scale rebellion when pro-Gaddafi forces retaliated and attempted to repress their protesters. By mid-February of 2011, uprisings had spread across the country, and Gaddafi was doing everything in his control to regain power. The civilians of Libya were fed up with the fact that Gaddafi had been the de facto ruler of Libya since 1969. During Gaddafi's rule, there was lots of corruption, along with violations of human rights of the citizens of Libya. As the protests started gaining momentum, Gaddafi shut off and blocked all communications and media so that the protesting organizations couldn't cooperate. Also, Gaddafi didn't want the news of the protests to be publicized and therefore arrested the people who gave interviews to the media. When this step didn't work, he used force against the demonstrators by sending in foreign mercenaries because Libyan military units refused to shoot at the protesters. On the 17th of March, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution to impose a no-fly zone in Libya. Soon after, on March 19th, 3 United States B-2 stealth bombers flew nonstop from the United States to drop 40 bombs on a Libyan airfield. Other U.S. aircraft searched for Libyan ground forces where they'd be able to attack. Some other countries started sending in bomber aircrafts and working along with the United States to fight the Libyan forces. The United States even gave a $25 million aid package to the Libyan rebels, which was then reinforced by Italy and France sending them military advisors to aid them. The United States' actions show their power in foreign policy and the humanitarian effects it has. Also, by ordering the military to go to Libya, the president is showing his powers as commander-in-chief of the army. Now, go to Hiroshi. who is currently in Libya. Hiroshi?
Okay, Sohini. As Sohini said, the U.S. sent air forces into Libya with the United Nations. As of May 20th, the 60 days limit set by the War Powers Resolution of 1973 passed. So, right now, Congress and the President are discussing whether the U.S. should stay in Libya or not, and the House recently voted on a bill about it. As Commander-in-Chief, President Obama sent the Air Force into Libya. However, now, because of the American system of checks and balances, the President must convince Congress if he wants the troops to stay in Libya. Congressional opposition roots on the resistance of the liberals, the unpopularity of the President by the Republicans, fiscal concerns, and the idea that the President is exceeding his powers as a President. So, America's biggest question concerning Libya is, should the U.S. stay in Libya? We will see how America answers that question. Now let's go to Angela for her predictions on the future of Egypt and Libya.
Hiroshi, I'm Angela, and hello. I'm here to tell you what I think will happen in Libya and Egypt. First, let's start with Egypt. In November, free elections are supposed to occur, and if they do, then we'll see a new government, hopefully a new democracy in Egypt. If no elections occur, I do think that the United States will step in to prevent a dictatorship. Now let's move on to Libya, which started the rebellion after Egypt. Since there's still an uprising in Libya, it's harder to predict what will happen. So since I'm not sure what will happen in Libya, I'm not sure how the U.S. will really be involved. But it is for certain that the U.S. involvement will be limited. That means no ground troops and only minimal support. I doubt that Libya will mimic Egypt because the Libyan army has been fighting against the rebellions, but the Egypt army joined the rebellions. If Gaddafi does step down, the Libyan rebels want a parliamentary democracy across the country. The U.S. will have no big role in the rebellion. Instead, they will have a supporting role. That means giving intelligence, logistical support, search and rescue assistance, and we also have the ability to jam regiment communications. In both Libya and Egypt, we will give humanitarian help and financial help to the people in need and in the future. Any military involvement made by the U.S. will probably be through NATO and the UN. So in conclusion, I believe that hopefully in both of these countries there will be a democracy, but it cannot be certain. But for sure, the U.S. involvement will be minimal no matter what. Now back to you, Sohini and Vivian.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us.
And stay tuned for more updates. This is SSAB News Show.
Saying goodbye!